All right, everyone, welcome to week 3. I'm going to be your presenter tonight. Some of you guys are familiar with me because I am your instructor, and some of you are not. But for those of you all who are not, my name is Sabrina Adelson. I am one of the behavioral science instructors, and I'm joined along with your instructor, either Michelle, Natika, or Miss Brandy. They should I'll be here in the chat box, chatting away in there. And if you all have questions, they would be more than happy to answer your questions. You can either ask them as a group, or you all can go ahead and send it to them as a private message if you would prefer, for all the students not to see them. So, again, my name is Sabrina Adelson. I have a background in adult education, some psychology, and sociology. So, I'm just hoping you all are doing well and you are kind of getting used to the structure of the course and just getting used to being in school all together. I know it can be very difficult to kind of balance your schedule and to kind of balance your daily life as well as your academic life. And this course is really good about reviewing some of those obstacles that you face along the way and maybe some of those challenges and finding ideas on how to kind of help you balance. So, as we go through tonight, if you have any questions, you can either save them until I say questions in the end, or you can go ahead and ask in the chat box and you'll get those responded to. So I'm going to start with a quote. It's success is being uncomfortable short term for a long term goal. I want you all to take a second to go ahead and read that quote to yourself and kind of internalize it. And then tell me, what do you think that means? What does that necessarily mean to you? Success is being uncomfortable short term for a long term goal. So once you've thought about it for a second, go ahead and write your response in the chat box. All right, I'm starting to see some answers here. Dylan, struggling now for success later. Grace said, doing what you have to do. Ellie said, working to get there isn't easy. Sacrifice, patience. Um, wow, I'm getting a lot of them here. Growth is not comfortable. If you're comfortable where you are, then you never move forward towards what you want. Suffering now to gain success. You all hit the nail on the head. Success is about being uncomfortable short term. And what that necessarily means is just like I want you to kind of think of all the obstacles and all the challenges you may face as you're going through school. Just because you've decided to or get your degree, life did not necessarily stop. It didn't all of a sudden say, okay, now I'm going to go back to school. Everything else I had going on is going to automatically just cease to exist. It doesn't work that way. So when you get into the mindset that you are going to have, some challenges, you will have some obstacles, and some days are going to be harder than others. As soon as you put that into your mind, you'll realize that this is more of a race, it's not a sprint. So don't try to think that everything's going to go perfect and everything is going to go exactly the way that we want it to every single day. There's going to be days that are going to be challenges. There's going to be courses that you might not necessarily want to take, but you have to take. And when you are faced with those types of obstacles, remember your goal. Go back to week 1 and understand, why are you here in the first place. So remember, you might be uncomfortable short term, but you will eventually reach that goal. You'll reach that success that you wanted long term. So think about that when you face those moments where you are struggling, and you can always go back to your why. All right. just a little nugget there because we're at week 3. So, you've been here for a while. You're either in your second course or some of you in your third or more. So, just something for you just to keep in mind. All right, our agenda for today. We're going to discuss what time management is. We're going to go through some different techniques that can kind of help you combat the things that kind of interrupt your time management skills or interrupt the time management tools that you have set in place, which are procrastination, life distractions, and then we can talk about prioritizing just to kind of see, the order that maybe might work best for you in completing your assignments or, those types of distractions we're talking about, life distractions. There's going to be different techniques that we're going to discuss. And I want you all to remember that every technique that we discuss today might not necessarily be your cup of tea, but there might be something that you can use or gain out of this lecture tonight that you can say, let me try that to see if that's going to help me with some of my if you have these tendencies to procrastinate, or if you have some tendencies to not prioritize or use your time wisely. So those are some things for you to consider as we go through tonight. And then finally, we're going to discuss the week 3 project. All right. So, what is time management? When you think of time management, everybody wants to say, well, it's managing your time, right? Well, it's basically, I want you to think of it more of how you balance your choices. You want to think of how well you do something when you're deciding to do something and how much time you're going to spend on that. So, time management is more than just using like maybe a calendar or an app to just, give you a schedule. It's more about purposefully using your time and setting out certain things that you need to get done. So it's more about quality, not just quantity. So we're going to talk about range of skills and tools to kind of help you complete your goals and certain tasks that you guys have set forth. And it's not just important for school or your job, but it's also important for your day-to-day life. So yes, I have someone in here. We see that Scott wrote a life balance, and that's exactly where I'm going with this. We're talking about more than just using those tools and we're using calendars, but we're talking about learning how to actually balance our lives and go full circle. So when you're thinking of time management, I want you to think more of balancing your choices and not just those time management tools. All right. So, some of you all, and I like to ask this question because every single time I do, I get a different response. You all might be familiar with different trends and products in your chosen industry, and there's different ways that different professionals keep themselves organized in their career, their personal life, and in their academic life. So, I want you to think about some time management tools that you might have used that others might not be familiar with. So if you have like a really great idea, you can go ahead and feel free to post this in the chat box. Oh, I see the Tello app. I actually just got introduced to that the other day, and I can see why a lot of people are using that. And I see Evernote, cell phone. See, a couple people are saying the same thing. This is why I like when everyone shares. Sometimes there might be some apps or something that someone's never heard of, and then all of a sudden that's exactly what they were looking for, and it's made a huge difference in their lives. So, feel free to put those right there in the chat box. And also, if you go back to your discussion post and you want to talk about it in your discussion, or you want to go to the community board, and in my course, they created this group chat. If you all, I'm always say, share the wealth, share the knowledge. So go ahead and, go ahead and do that. So if you all have something that really, really works well, maybe you can let us know why you think it works so well, just a little snippet. In that way, others can decide if, that's going to be something that they like. And then I see a lot of people saying Alexa, I should say, alarm clock, reminders, Google Home, alarms. You guys are right on the money here. Again, Bixby is that? That I've never heard of. Maybe that would be good. It says for Droid users. So maybe that would be a really good one. I can look that one up and see how that one works. And again, thank you all for sharing those. We're going to play a little game called Time Management Tools, What Am I? I'm going to read some clues for you all, and you're going to try to guess what time management tool I am. So once I read the clues, you all are going to go ahead and post your answers, but I'm not going to reveal the answer until the very end, so you can keep track of your points, and then you'll kind of see how you fared out in the end of this little game. So we're going to start with our very first one. Our first, what am I? I can be found on an Android or an iPhone. I've been around for a long time. You can input upcoming dates. I have many different forms and features. Again, what am I? I can be found on an Android or iPhone. I've been around for a long time. You can input upcoming dates. I have many different forms and features. I see a lot of calendars. I saw a note, compass, assistant. Someone said their dad in a calendar, an alarm clock, calendars. All right, remember your responses. This is question number 1. I'm going to give you all one more second because I still see responses coming in. I see email, calendar, clock, a cat calendar. Okay. Reminders if there's any different from calendar. Okay. Remind. The reminders, I guess that is a little different from calendar. That's like a separate app on your phone. A clock. Ah, that was a joke, Eric. Okay. Alarm clock, the time. All right. I'm going to give it about 5 more seconds to let these responses go in. And then I'm moving on to number 2. Once you lock it in, you lock it in. That's it. All right. Number 2. What am I? I allow you to access your documents virtually anywhere. I can be used to keep your school assignments secure. I can be used to share documents. I can create private links and access. I see Google Drive, Google Drive, Google Drive, Google Drive. I saw Cloud, Google Drive, G Drive, any cloud account, Photoshop, Google Drive, Dropbox. All right, I saw a Microsoft in there, Google Docs, LA Film Drive, Google Drive or iCloud. All right, I see folder. I'm going to give you all another 5 seconds to go ahead and respond. I see Google Docs and Google Drive. It seems like a lot of people are going with Google Drive. WeTransfer, is that what that is? All right, WeTransfer, Google Drive. All right. It looks like everybody's locked in. I'm moving on to number 3. I've been around for a long time. I can be written on paper or created electronically. I make remembering things a lot easier. I can be simple or creative. I see to-do lists, notes, notepad, reminders, notes, list, planners, sticky notes, reminders, notes, planner. I'm only going to say the new ones that I see. Agenda. I see a to-do. Messages. Task list. All right. So far, we've gotten a few answers for this one. There hasn't been as much of a consensus. Oh, a honey-do list. I like that. Pen and pad. Quick memo. All right, it looks like, oh, nope, we got some more coming in. Words, pencil. All right, it looks like we are about done. 5 seconds, and then I'm going to move on to number 4. All right, you guys got your answers locked in. What am I number 4? This is the one that I get the most debate about. I can be a tool on a phone. I'm used in a kitchen. I'm used in a classroom. I can help you keep track of time, and I've been around for a long time. Stopwatch, timer, alarm clock, timer, calendar, stopwatch, timer. Let me start saying my new ones now. I see clock, alarm clock. All right, someone's going with peace, love, and music. Nothing wrong with that. A cookbook. Alarm apps. Timer. All right, I'm giving everybody another 5 seconds to lock it in, and then I will review the responses, give you guys the answers. Someone said paper is the answer. Okay. And I see a scale. All right. Let us review. So now let's go back to number 1. I can be found on an Android or iPhone. I've been around for a long time. You can input upcoming date to have many different forms and features. If you said calendar, you were correct. So far, you got 100 points. So if you said calendar, you were correct. Yes, all right. It's all right to celebrate yourself. Excellent. All right, let's see if you guys are going to go for number 2. I allow you to access your documents virtually anywhere. I can be used to keep your school assignments secure. I can be used to share documents. I can create private links and access. If you've said Google Drive, you were technically correct. Or if you said Dropbox or Cloud, but if you went with any cloud feature or app, then that would have been double the points. But any of those, you got it. And most of you all probably went with Google Drive because that's what we've been having in our assignments, and that's perfectly okay. So you did get the answer correct if you said any one of those cloud apps, but if you said all cloud apps, then you got bonus points. So give yourself some extra points there. All right, I'm seeing some 2 for 2s. All right. Let's see if you can make it 3. I've been around for a long time. I can be written on paper or created electronically. I make remembering things a lot easier. I can be simple or creative. This one was another one that sometimes I get a little pushback for, but this is if you said anything like a list, a to-do list, even like the honey-do list, then that is correct. So some type of list is correct. So yes, well, you say Notepad. Notepad is one of those applications where you can actually write things down. Notepad you don't necessarily have to use as a list, but you can write a list on Notepad, so I can see where you're going with that. Same with notes. It's same with notes because technically you don't have to write a list on notes. So think about it as a list. This is what I was looking for. If you said anything around the lines of creating a list, then that's the correct answer. All right, somebody got 3.5. I'm thinking maybe because they got that extra one. Somebody said they have 2.5. All right, I see you. I'm not mad at you. And it's okay if you got 0 out of 3. Sometimes it happens. I'm not sure how somebody got 7 because we only had 4 questions and I'm on number 3, but I'll take it. I'll take it. You all are keeping track of your own points. So I'll let you go ahead and you handle that between yourself and the ref. All right, question 4 was I can be a tool on a phone. I'm used in a kitchen, used in a classroom. I can help you keep track of time, and I've been around a long time. This is another one that I can say a lot of people are like, I'm not sure about. But what I was looking for this one was like a timer. So any type of timer, because you use a timer in the kitchen, you use a timer in a classroom, you keep track of time. They've been using this like forever. So yeah, it's like a stopwatch is basically the same thing. Anything that would, you can use to kind of keep track of time and it will ring and let you know that, you've run out of time. That's what I was looking for. Yes, a clock. I mean, technically you can look at a clock, it'll tell you time. So there you go. All right, I see 4 out of 4, so great job. It looks like you guys were right on the money when it comes to your time management tools. If you got 3 out of 4, that's not bad either. All right, I'm seeing this 9. Again, I'm not sure where you got your points from, but that's okay too. So, like I said, take it up. You all are the ones keeping track of the time, and you are your own refs. So, you're going to have to take it up with your ref. At 15. All right, you all. I'm done with the scores for tonight. We're going to go ahead and move on. And hopefully, this was just our little warm up and our icebreaker just to kind of lighten up the mood a little bit tonight. All right, now we're going to dive right in and we're going to talk about procrastination. I think that we all may suffer from some sort of procrastination at one point in our lives, if not even on a daily basis sometimes. I see a couple people who say not me, and I think, if you don't, I think that's amazing. I honestly do, because it's like one of those things where if you kind of don't procrastinate, you can get a lot done. But I can say if you were joking. So if you're one of those people, you're a rare breed, but I'm never gonna say it doesn't exist, because I'm sure it does. I'm sure there are some people out there who just will not allow themselves to procrastinate. But for the rest of us that do, here are a couple of things that we can kind of do to combat that. So, when we're talking about procrastination, and you guys look at my lazy procrastination cat here, we're talking about putting off what it is that you need to do. We're talking about resisting to take action when you need to take action and complete something. And sometimes we procrastinate because we find a task too difficult and we find it overwhelming. And when that happens, you tend to shut down. And it's not that you were necessarily looking to procrastinate, you just got overwhelmed and you kind of shut down and you didn't take the action that you needed to make sure that you combat some of that. So let's go ahead and talk about some different procrastination techniques. There is a powerful tool that can help you in procrastination. This tool, I like to say, will most definitely help the majority of your everyday procrastinator. So, that tool is something very simple. I like to call it Make It Easy. And then another technique which does that is going to be the Pomodoro technique. We're going to watch a short video on this technique, and then we'll discuss the technique. And if this is something that you think you can kind of do or adopt to kind of help you um overcome some of that procrastination, then this is going to be the tool that you're going to kind of challenge yourself and see if you can use this for the remainder of the course and see if that will kind of help you. So let me go ahead and play this.
We procrastinate because we believe that a project or task is too big to finish. But when you break that huge task into 25-minute segments, it becomes easily achievable. The Pomodoro technique was developed by Francesco Cirillo in 1980s. If you don't know, Pomodoro is Italian for tomato. Cirillo used a kitchen timer shaped like a tomato as his personal timer when he was a university student, and thus the method's name. The technique can help you power through distractions and get things done while taking frequent breaks. Best of all, it's probably one of the simplest productivity methods to implement since all you need is a timer. Here's how to get started with Pomodoro. Number 1. Choose a task to be accomplished. Number 2. Set the timer to 25 minutes and work until the timer rings. Number 3. Take a 5-minute break and restart the task. Number 4. Take a longer break every 4 Pomodoro sessions. Simple, right? Let's break it down a bit further. When choosing the task you want to accomplish, make sure it's just one task. If you want to study, don't check your phone or browse Facebook at the same time. You don't want to decrease your productivity by working on 5 things at once. I've already discussed how multitasking is ineffective in another video. Do what you can to minimize interruptions and make sure that everything you don't need is put away before you begin. Shut your office door, turn off your phone, and close all unnecessary websites. Also, prepare everything you need for the task at hand, as it will mess with your focus if you run around looking for things that you might need. Like a cooking chef, get all your ingredients ready. Another thing you would want to have at hand is a notepad and a pen. When you're working, your mind might wander off a bit. It's not uncommon to suddenly remember that you need to take out the trash, call your friend before lunch, etc. Don't allow yourself to become distracted if ideas or thoughts about other things pop into your head. Write them down on your notepad and set them aside for later. For now, focus on your set task. Got everything ready? Great, time to start the timer. You don't actually need to go out and buy a special tomato-shaped kitchen timer. The countdown app built into your smartphone will do. When setting a time, it doesn't have to be exactly 25 minutes either. The creator of the technique used it for 25, but for you it might be more productive if you set the timer for 20 or maybe 30 minutes. I highly recommend you experiment with session lengths and find what works best for you. After all, the technique is not set in stone and should be customized to your length of focus before you need a break. For me, the Pomodoro technique is just a way of breaking that mental resistance we often have before starting something. That's why I use it to get the wheel rolling. It's hard for me to get started, but I find it super easy to keep on going. For that reason, I'll often find myself still hammering away at a task after the timer already buzzed. When I start losing focus, that's when I'll take a break. Each focus session is one Pomodoro. When you complete one session, you take a 5-minute break before starting a new one. However, this may not suit everyone. Some people might find regular short breaks too distracting, especially if they come at times when inspiration is flowing. Like I said, I often just continue my session without stopping. What you do during the break is also completely up to you. Get a glass of water to stay hydrated, go to the bathroom if you need to, or do something from your to-do list. Personally, I always stretch because the stiffness from sitting in a chair starts killing me otherwise. When the break is over, reset your timer for the next session and continue your work. When you've completed 4 Pomodoro sessions, take a 20 to 30 minute break. Use it to have lunch, go for a walk, or read a book. Anything works as long as it takes you away from your desk for a while and clears your mind of what you were doing before. The goal of Pomodoro technique is to help you to get into the zone and focus, but it's also to remind you to come up for air. It can also help you find your sweet spot, since tracking your completed Pomodoros can help you understand how you're spending your time. You can pinpoint the times during the day when you are most likely to focus properly and times when you struggle to get things done. That way you can adjust the way you work. And I'll be honest, I rarely complete all 4 Pomodoro sessions. Since I usually keep on going after the timer rings, my one session is usually way longer than 25 minutes and there is no need to do multiple sessions. Also, sometimes I'm just having a bad day or I'm feeling lazy and I'll only complete one 25-minute session and call it a day. To me, maintaining the habit is more important than the length of time spent on the task. Even if I only did one 25-minute session, I still accomplished something that day and didn't break my habit. Alright, now that I've covered everything, I highly suggest you try out the Pomodoro technique yourself. It has been my go-to strategy when I need to get something done and
All right, everyone. Hopefully you guys got a little bit of background of where the Pomodoro technique kind of came from. And if you kind of missed that, Brandy wrote in the chat box that Focus Keeper is a great app for this technique. So if you're one of those people who kind of go through, you like to use the different apps and you need something that's actually going to set up the timers and stuff for you, I think that using the app will kind of help you go through and kind of use the technique a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to review a little bit of the technique just in case you didn't catch everything from the video. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask those now, and I can kind of explain some of the tasks that you're going to, well, not the tasks, some of the steps that you're going to complete a little bit more. So the first one is you're going to select a task that you need to complete. For example, if it is completing your week 3 project, if you're going to use that to complete your task, if that's the task that you need to complete, you're going to set the timer. I put the 25 minutes here in parentheses, and the reason I did that was because remember in the video they said that you can kind of tweak this to kind of fit you, which is very true. Everywhere I've heard them discuss the technique and even using it myself, you can always change that amount of time that best fits you. So if you're one of those people who can sit 25 minutes only before you start to lose focus, then you're going to stick to the standard 25 minutes. If you can go longer than that and you can go an hour without getting distracted, then you're going to go ahead and go with the hour. So just remember you need to tweak that to kind of what something that kind of fits you. And if you're one of those people where you're really having issues with focusing, start with shorter periods of time until you can kind of build up that stamina to reach the 25 minutes or the 30 minutes or even the hour goal that you're trying to reach. So after you've set your timer, you're going to work on the task. At the end of the timer, you're going to go ahead and check that item off. For some people, it's like a feeling of gratification where you can check something off of your list or you can mark something off of your list. It keeps you organized and it lets you know what you've already done. So, don't think that it's just a minute thing. It actually does really help with productivity when you go ahead and you write things down and you check those items off. Um, if you have less than 4 check marks, you're going to go ahead and take a break. And then you're going to go back and you're going to start that, the whole process again. And then you're going to take, breaks. So once you get 4 of those whole tasks complete, you're going to go ahead and take a longer break. And that longer break tends to be for 15 to 30 minutes. And then after that, you're going to reset your counter and you're going to go back to 0 and you're going to start all over again until you complete the task. So again, if this is something that you want to try and you're finding yourself having a lot of issues with procrastination where you're starting something and you just don't feel like doing it, try doing this. You kind of set your mind to it and try to go ahead and complete it all the way through and see if this is something that's going to be able to work for you. So go ahead and if you find yourself constantly getting overwhelmed or you're looking at your assignments and you're like, this is a lot for me to do, that's that feeling of being overwhelmed, or even any tasks that you need to have completed. try it. I'm telling you, it's made a big difference in a lot of people's lives, not just students. I'm talking about your instructors, I'm talking about professionals, even people out there in the real world working every day. Even in your own field, you'll see that a lot of people definitely use this technique and it's working. It's very popular. So just give it a try. And if it's not for you, then, that's okay too. But you always try to use different tools to see, what it is that you can do to help yourself improve in certain areas. All right, we're going to now talk about life's distractions. Sometimes procrastination is not necessarily the issue, it can be just different life distractions. The top distractions that we tend to have are going to be people, our phones, um, our bodies, and our environment. What I mean by our bodies, it's going to be your everyday needs. So you want to think about if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're hungry, if you are just, worn out, you're stressed out, whatever the case may be, your body can become a distraction if you're not taking care of yourself. So you want to make sure that you do everything that you can to take care of your needs, because if your basic needs are not met, then that means that this is going to become a distraction as well. So also your environment, you want to, if you're too hot or you're too cold, if it's too loud, or even for some people, if it's too quiet, believe it or not, that will distract them. You just have to kind of see what environment do you flourish the best in, and you want to make sure that, you are comfortable. That's what it's all about. And, just to go back to, again, taking care of your basic needs, not just when it comes to your academics or, in work. You always have to remember, if you don't take care of yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to take care of anyone else. For those of you who have like other responsibilities, and even if you have like even work responsibilities, it's going to be hard for you to ever take care of any responsibilities if you're not taking care of yourself. So it is okay to, take some time to just make sure you're okay, mentally okay, you're healthy, make sure you're eating, and making sure you get enough rest. So those are some things to kind of think about. And then our phones, in this day and age, our phones are just always going off. They're like little mini computers, and they will distract us in a heartbeat. So you just want to make sure you're, whenever you're trying to finish something important, that you don't allow your phone to become a distraction. And if it's one of those things where it's really becoming a distraction, then you turn it off for a certain amount of time, and then when you take those 3 to 5 minute breaks, if you are using the Pomodoro technique, then you can go ahead and check your phone to make sure that no one really needs you or anything like that. All right, now, this right here is the urgency matrix. This matrix is basically used to kind of help people prioritize. That's the um, that's the premise of this. It's just basically to teach you how to prioritize. Um, each item or something that you need always falls into a category, a task or something you need to complete. It each falls into a category. So here on this urgency matrix, it goes on to if something is urgent, non-urgent, if it's important or not important. So here, something that's urgent and important would fall under a crisis. Something that's important but it's non-urgent, it goes under goals and planning. Something that's urgent but it's not important, it could be an interruption. And something that's not important and non-urgent, it's considered a distraction. Now, you have to always remember when it comes to things like this, everything doesn't always fit in one pretty category, because sometimes certain interruptions can be important and they're urgent. So I don't want you to think that, if something happens and it's an interruption or it's something that's distracting you, that magically it's just not important because of what the urgency matrix says. So remember, everything is not black and white. And when you're dealing with humans and you're dealing with, the world, and you're dealing with life, basically, everything does not always fit into the category. So this is more so for you to think of when you're sitting down and you're trying to complete an assignment, or you're at work and you're trying to complete something. It's talking about those types of distractions. So what's considered a crisis would be something that is due immediately. That is what is considered a crisis. So something that is due immediately, it's going to be urgent and it's going to be important, because if it has a deadline attached to it and it's your responsibility, that falls under a crisis. So remember, it doesn't necessarily mean, I don't want you all to use this as far as life when you think of crises. Use this more so in the sense of academic or career based planning. This is what the matrix is designed for. It's not designed for like life type crises. So remember that. So when you have tasks that you need to complete, the type of tasks that would go on this list would be things like your homework. It would be like having deadlines that are due at work, maybe even your kids' homework, those types of things. All right. Another technique that some of you all might have heard, and this is more prevalent in like our business world, and even some in our entertainment industry, and that's going to be the 80-20 rule. Now, you'll often hear business professionals walking around saying that 20% of your activities will account for 80% of your results. In other words, it's basically telling you not to throw good into bad. And what I mean by that is you're not going to spend so much time focusing on the things that just doesn't matter. So you want to make sure that all the effort that you're putting into it is actually going to yield some type of result. So that's what the 80-20 rule is. And then I have a short video that discusses our 80-20 rule so you guys can know exactly what I mean by that. It's like a minute and 30 seconds, so not too bad.
So in 1906, Italian economist Wilfredo Pareto found that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population. Now, this 80-20 distribution became quite famous for occurring over and over again in many scenarios. For example, about 20% of the world's population control about 80% of the world's income. You wear about 20% of the clothes in your wardrobe about 80% of the time. About 20% of a business's customers account for 80% of their complaints. This is known as the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. Now, as a note, this shouldn't be taken as some sort of universal law that occurs in all situations. Exceptions can be made, and one should always be critical. With that being said, it's an extremely effective tool to analyze your own life and be more productive. Let's look at an example. Imagine you have a daily to-do list with 10 things to do every day. Using the Pareto principle, you want to figure out what are the 2 most important things that will give you the majority of your results. And once you figure this out, you want to spend 80% of your effort on these 2 things and the rest on the remaining 8 things to do. This means that even if you don't manage to complete most of the things you wanted to do, you at least get the important things out of the way. The concept is very simple, but the ways you can apply it are endless. The point here isn't the numbers, but rather to simplify your life and focus on what truly matters. Know someone who needs to improve their productivity? Share this with them and give us some love by hitting that like button. And if you want to see more, just subscribe.
All right. So, after reviewing just getting a little bit of a background on the video, you all can kind of see that when they're saying that 20% of that list will yield into 80% of your effort, what they're basically referring to is completing those 2 great things that are on your list. So if you had 10 things on your list, the top 2 items on your list should be something that's going to give you a great result. So basically when you're creating this list, I want you to think of your overall goals. So if your overall goal is for you to get your dream career, or to get your spot in an industry, or for you to start your business, or whatever it is, but for you to get there, you need to earn your academic degree. that would mean completing everything that's necessary for that goal is going to be on your top priority. Those are the types of things that you would have on there. So you want to make sure whatever your overall goal or your main goals are in life, you are actually spending time and effort to actually accomplish that goal. So think about those things. You don't neglect your everyday life, but at the same time, there's certain things that have to go on the back burner, and some of that tend to be more of like the entertainment things. You never completely get rid of things where you can kind of, balance some of that stress, but you don't want to spend most of your time on stress relievers. So just think about that. So just, if you enjoy going to the beach or something like that to relieve your stress, you don't want to be going to the beach so much that now you've caused yourself more stress and you're so behind in all your courses and you haven't gone to work and you're like behind in all your bills, because that defeats the whole purpose. So just remember, what it is that you're putting in your effort. It has to actually help you obtain your goal. And then I see Caroline said, that's true. Just like when we pick up our phones, we get distracted and we get behind. And that is so true. Sometimes, that little bit of distraction turns into a very long period when you could have been finishing the task that you need to complete. And then later, you could have got on the phone and did what it is that you needed to do. So it's all about just, balance, learning how to balance some of that time. Right here is our priorities chart. This is just an example of how, if you had a list of things that you needed to do, what it would look like on that urgency matrix. For example, it's Tuesday night, and you know that you need to, these are the things that are on your to do list. You needed to network or promote your brand. You needed to complete your week 3 post, because we all know that's due tomorrow. So hopefully, most of you guys have gotten that started. If you haven't started it already, hopefully tonight you're going to be motivated to get some things done early. And you're going to go ahead and get started on that post so it will not be late. So, it's not about the past and how you've kind of, if you submitted anything late or if you had anything going on where you couldn't submit it, but it's about moving forward and just trying your very best to get all of your assignments in on time and making sure it's better to be early than to be late. And then the other things on the list are to pack boxes and to finish a book. Um, Here are basically the response here for this. So, something that would be considered high urgency and very important, it would be your week 3 post. And the only reason this falls under, and that would be the crisis box, is because this is the one thing that has to be done by tomorrow. Everything else on your list doesn't necessarily have to be done by a certain time, unless it's the pack boxes. But the other two things don't have to be done by a certain time. Maybe if you're moving for the weekend or the following week, you do need to make sure that you pack your boxes and you get everything done. But it's not considered your crisis moment yet because it's not immediately due. And then the other part about networking and promoting your brand, that's important, especially if this is what you want to do and for your future, and this is part of your goals. It's very important, but it's not very urgent. So you want to make sure you make time to do that, but you don't necessarily want to put everything on the back burner to do it. So that's why that goes into that category. And then finally, finish the book. This would be a leisure item. If you like to read, you like to, I don't know, make music, if you like to paint, whatever it is that you like to do for leisure, that's what would go in that box under low urgency and low importance. It's not necessarily your leisure is not important, but as far as the grand scheme of things on your to-do list, that falls as your lowest priority. So that's just an example of using that urgency matrix with a to-do list. All right, so we've finished talking about all of our time management tools and different techniques. What I'm hoping you all get out of this week is for you to kind of take one of the tools or one of the techniques that we've talked about today and kind of challenge yourself and use that technique or that tool. And if you find something that really works well for you, share the wealth. Make sure you go out and you just let your different classmates know, or if you don't want to do that and you just want to let your instructors know, hey, this really works really well for me, just go ahead and let us know that, hey, this really worked or this didn't work, and maybe give a short explanation as to why. This kind of gives us an idea of what, different time management techniques really work out there for students. The purpose of this course is to give you those tools that's going to help you be successful in your other courses. So we want to make sure when we are giving you all different techniques and we're lecturing about different things that you all are, benefiting from them. And if something works, great, just let us know. And if it doesn't, that's also great, because those are the things that we can tweak on and improve on. So thank you all for being so attentive on that. And we're going to go ahead and go through our week 3 assignment. So before I get down to the project, I do always go over this. Make sure when after you review the materials, you remember to hit mark complete. Um, in every course I get this, and people can often forget where you review the workbook or you watch the videos, and then that 0 still pops up on Monday, and you're like, how come I got a 0? I reviewed this before the deadline. Why did I still get a 0? And the only reason is because you didn't mark that complete. So make sure you hit mark as completed, and that will alleviate a lot of those problems for you. So remember to do that. It's not that we're not, seeing that you're not doing it. It's because it's automatically graded. So if you didn't hit mark complete, the system is going to generate a 0 for you. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start with part 1 of our project. Part 1 of the week 3 project is going to be to create a fixed commitment calendar. You're going to find this, it's going to be a PDF, a separate PDF, or you're going to also see an example of this in the workbook. Your week, it's going to be 3.2. You're going to find that in your workbook. When you are completing the calendar, go ahead and you're going to go ahead and fill out every one of those sections and all the hours. And I'm going to show you all a template of what this looks like in a minute. But the part I wanted you all to focus on is make sure you provide your total available hours. The whole purpose of you filling out the calendar is for you to see the total available hours that you have left after you've put in all of your commitments. So the calendar looks something like this for the template, and this is the one that came out of the workbook. What you're going to do is you're going to fill out all of the, so from the time that you go to sleep and when you wake up, you're going to go ahead and fill out all of those items, and you're going to put something in that box, and then all of the hours that you have left over, those are going to be your total available hours for the week. If you all look at on the side, you're going to be able to see the exact directions for that. I know I often get this question: what if I work, a different schedule every week? Do it based off of your schedule from the week before, or if you know your upcoming schedule, do it based off of that schedule. For some people, their calendar is going to change on a weekly basis, and that's okay. Doesn't necessarily everybody doesn't necessarily have the same work schedule every single week. Your schedule changes, your shift changes, so that's okay. So you're going to go ahead and do that. So make sure, and then I did see the question on that. I'm sorry if you had to write work that many times. And yes, copy and paste will work really well. Sometimes if you're using Adobe, you can just click on it and drag it, and it'll bring it all the way down. So and it is a fillable PDF. So you're going to be able to do that. If you want to recreate the calendar because you plan on using the calendar, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you are going to put in all the information that's required of you. So if you are not using the fillable PDF and you decided that you're going to create, a calendar that fits your needs, or you're going to use it multiple, different times, and you're going to actually continue to use this, that's fine. I've seen a lot of students do some really creative things with the calendars. That's fine. As long as it has all the information that's being requested of you, then that's fine. And then make sure you total out the available hours. If you all look at the bottom of the page, you will see where it says total available hours. So let me go ahead and close this one out and move on to the next part. The next part of the project is going to be part 2. I pulled up these so you guys can kind of see what it is that you're going to be doing. You're going to pick 3 that apply to your life. So you're going to look at the time management concepts, and you're going to say, how do these apply to your life? So here we have the fixed commitment calendar. That's the one that you're going to be doing. Another one is how much time. So identifying how much time you actually need. 8 tips for time management. Why we procrastinate. The 6-step anti-procrastination plan. Procrastination styles, and organize your days. And where do we find these? You say, again, it's going to be in your workbook. So as you go through and you're reading your workbook, you can go ahead and identify the 3 that, you can apply to your life. And then you're going to write 2 paragraphs for each one of those concepts. And that's going to give you a total of 6 paragraphs. And then the question is, will there be PowerPoint examples as well? Yes. I want to say instructors, go ahead and post those in the announcements. If for whatever reason you need, help, or you have questions, you can always reach out to your instructor. You can, email them or schedule a time to speak to them if you're still having issues. You can always go back and review this video where the project is explained. So, there's different resources for you available if for whatever reason you're not really sure how to complete the assignment. Oh, why is this popping on me? All right, there we go. Let me make sure I don't have any more questions. I see, is this a typed paper or PowerPoint? It's a presentation, so you're going to complete this on PowerPoint, Keynote, or something like that. I've even seen some people do theirs on Prezi. I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of the Prezi, only because it's a little bit, sometimes the links don't work, and sometimes it can be difficult to read. Google Slides is fine as well. But I think that, using one of those presentation softwares is usually the best way to complete the assignment. Good questions. And then finally, it's going to be part 3. Part 3 is going to be a to-do list. You're going to be breaking down your task into a to-do list. You're going to go ahead and list all the things that you have for the upcoming week. And you're going to have a section that's going to be for your study and your personal goals, and you're going to number each one by priority. Remember, we talked about prioritizing this week, so make sure when you're completing your to-do list, you're listing those things by the order of priority. So make sure that you go ahead and you get all those things done. And then finally, I want you all just to remember, if you've attended tonight's live session, go in and write attended, and make sure you submit that, and then that will alleviate you getting that 0 again. And then your instructors will go through the attendance list and go ahead and give you credit for being here today. So if you all have any questions, I will be here to answer your questions. And I'm going to leave you with your nugget for the night. Just remember that time management is really life management and personal management. So you all take control of the next steps. So that is your nugget for tonight. If you have any questions, I will be here. I see a question on how do we create the calendar. The calendar is a PDF. There's a link when you go. It's not only on the workbook, but there's also a link for the calendar on 3.5 where you go in to look at the directions for the project. So it is a fillable PDF. You want to make sure once you fill that out, you hit save. For some reason, people are uploading the blank ones, and it's just a mistake. Sometimes if we're not hitting that save button, it won't come up. So make sure you all do that. And thank you all. The session is great when you all participate. So I really do appreciate all of your participation and your great questions. These are some questions that others might be thinking of, or they didn't even think to ask, that will come in handy for them later. So thank you all for your participation and the questions. For those of you all who do not have any questions, you are free to go. Have a great night. I do see a question about calendar. Do we need to put the calendar in the PowerPoint, or do we just fill it out? Yes, just put the calendar into your PowerPoint. If for whatever reason you cannot upload your calendar into the PowerPoint, it's always better to attach it. It's better to have it there than to not include it in the project at all. So if you have to attach it separately because you're having that much difficulty embedding it into the PowerPoint, they would rather have you take it there. And Ms. Satika said you can take a screenshot of the calendar, insert the image into slide. And yes, I've had several people do that. They take a screenshot and then they put it in as the image. Some people are just better at embedding it in there. That's really good too. And again, I always say if you are having that much difficulty and you have to attach it separately, then it is better. All right. I see someone's not seeing their question. Jen, let me see if I see that question come up. I'm seeing questions about the discussion being due tomorrow, which is correct. If you were only a few minutes late, then that's fine. That would still count. You were here for the majority of the time. Can we use the calendar as one of the concepts, or no, because it's for part 1? It's on the list, so you can use the calendar as one of the concepts. it says discussion isn't due until the 20th. It just depends on your time zone. You all want to remember that your discussion post is due on Wednesday, 11:59 Pacific Standard Time. So that's like on the West Coast. If you are on the East Coast, remember that is a few hours after that. So it's going to show up at 2 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast. That's Thursday morning. So you want to make sure that you take account to that. If you just put it in your mind that it's due Wednesday night, that's the best way to do it, because if you keep putting it in your mind that it's due on Thursday, most people are not up that late. But if you are and you get it in time, that's fine. But just remember it's based on Pacific Standard Time. So yes, that's 2:59 Eastern Time. Thank you, London, and that's correct. It is 2:59 Eastern Time, so that's basically 3 a.m. So unless you're going to be up that early, just remember when we say Wednesday night, it just basically means we're just, estimating, giving you a rough estimate as to when it's due. But the real time, it's Wednesday, 11:59 Pacific Standard Time, and Eastern Time. That makes it 2:59 a.m. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions. Just let me know. I'm at work now, but can I